So welcome to the November Historic Resources Board meeting. And can we have a roll call, please?
Board Member Wadsworth. Board Member Munoz.
Present.
Board Member Callender. Board Member Shim. Board Member Hirahara.
Present.
Chair Mazgai.
Here. Are there any general public comments?
I have something to add
Um,
to the agenda.
I don't think you're part of the public, are you?
Normally, we have any additions or deletions to the agenda.
Um,
Brown acting?
So what are you wanting to mention?
Just to make an update and review.
Sal, we can't hear you.
We have some certain historical sites in Salinas that have been worked. They're doing some work on historical buildings, like the 124 Clay Street. There is a residential there. There is some work going on. I don't know if they had a permit, whatever that is. It seems that they are working on it. And the other one is the John Steinbeck Free Library. There is a lot of activity. It seems like they're taking all of the books, everything inside the building. And it has a lot of historical, in the structure, it has a lot of historical indigenous people's wares on the facade.
So is this something that we should bring up in our December meeting then?
Yes, and also just to see a red flag for the city and see if they have any permits or any activities on the historical sites.
Well, I know in the December meeting, one of the tentative items to be discussed, I've been trying to get it for a couple months now, and we've just been really busy with how much time we have each meeting, but is for Yesenia to show us the whole process of that once from those properties on the 89 survey and the 2017 survey. We're going to get a demo from her as to how the process works and show how things are flagged and all of that. So I think it's a good tie-in with what you're bringing up, because we do need to be aware of any kind of activity. Certainly the city is, and we become secondary unless we see it on our own.
Yes, that's why I bring it up, because I see something is going on, that's all. Okay?
And I think with the library, you would probably have the library director or whoever's in charge, some sort of plan of what's going on, if that's what you're concerned about the inside, right? Yeah. Okay, so that can be one of the future agenda items for next month. Any other comments? If not, let's go on to the minutes. Do we have any comments there or corrections? No, I have a couple comments and corrections. Okay, so I'll bring mine up. So on page 2, where it's mentioned when we were talking about 14 Los Orales becoming the next Mills Act property, it mentions the jurist Ernest Jorgensen as being the owner. That should be changed to Judge Henry G. Jorgensen. He was the owner. And then on page 8, the Baranda Adobe is misspelled. So if we could correct the spelling on Baranda.
Yeah.
So if there are no other comments or corrections, could we have a vote?
Oh, we have, gotta get a second. Motion and a second.
I'll second. Yes, he had the motion. As amended.
All right.
Board Member Wadsworth.
Yes.
Board Member Munoz,
Yes.
Board Member Calendar,
Yes.
Board Member Shim,
Yes.
Board Member Hirahara,
Yes.
Chair Mazgai.
Yes. Next consideration would be the new schedule for 2026, so we know when our meetings are going to be held. Any discussions or comments or conflicts that we should be aware of?
I'm good.
I noticed in the September, they have it the second week instead of the first. Why is that?
I think it's more, we just went through the same thing this year. They like their long weekend for the holiday, so it bumps to the second week.
Oh, I see.
Labor Day.
Labor Day. Oh, okay. I see.
Any more comments or any conflicts?
I move that we just accept this.
Okay, so we have a first. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Can we have a vote, please?
Board Member Wadsworth? Yes. Board Member Munoz?
Yes.
Board Member Calendar?
Yes.
Board Member Shim?
Yes.
Board Member Hirahara?
Yes.
Chair Mazgai.
Yes. Okay, next would be a presentation on Salinas Heritage Tourism. So welcome Denise Estrada and Craig Kaufman.
Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing us this time in your busy schedule. We also would like to thank you for the support. I've seen all of your faces, I believe, at Heritage Park for open houses and things, and we really want to thank you. Just a couple of updates before we start the presentation here. I wanted to congratulate ACE for their great fundraiser and great food for that. Also wanted to let you know some of the members of the partnership, including the Steinbeck House and the First Mayors, are signed up for the Monterey County Gives program that's coming up soon. So I'd acknowledge that you watch out for that. That's maybe how we get most of our funding this year at this rate. Also, we have some new partners on board for our off-site location of the Steinbeck House. Michelle Fabian has now joined as the new administrative manager. Also, on the First Mayor's Board, we have a new board member, Suzanne McBride from the Farm Bureau. Some of you may know her, so we're excited to welcome those members on board. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Craig for the presentation and updates on the heritage tourism.
Thank you, Denise. Good afternoon. I want to thank the Historic Resource Board for allowing us this presentation. A lot of exciting developments I'd like to share with you. First off, on the cover of our presentation is similar to the portfolio that I've given out to each of you, along with an additional book, which I'll touch upon in a minute. But it's really about our vision statement. Through regional heritage tourism, we're creating points of destination that share our stories, honor the legacies of our diverse ancestors, and inspire new opportunities for economic development. Just to give you a little background about a California Welcome Center, I know there's a lot of moving parts, so I'll try to be as concise as possible. But there are 23 California Welcome Centers throughout the state. And in March of 2025, they provided an updated research by a company called Travel Analytics Group, or TAG for short, their acronym. And that was commissioned by Visit California. Now, for those of you who don't know Visit California, they are the statewide agency responsible for marketing tourism for the state of California, both domestic and international. There's currently about 23 welcome centers. There are currently an RFP out for one or two more, but you actually have to compete to get a welcome center. This is not something that the state pays us. In fact, it works in reverse. We actually pay the state a yearly fee to become sort of a franchise of their system. And so Visit California in their last fiscal year spent over $180 million in domestic and international marketing campaigns. And that really allowed us to be the beneficiaries both directly and indirectly from that type of marketing spend. So in March of 2025, TAG came out with a comprehensive analysis and study market research of California Welcome Centers. We're obviously challenged from the standpoint that most lay people don't know what a difference is between a California Welcome Center and just a Chamber of Commerce or a regular visitor center. And so we were able to, they were able to provide us with some key data. And what I wanted to point out on this, and this is also in that portfolio piece as well, but on page 10 of their particular study, they call out two interesting pieces here. And this was even prior to us having knowledge of this study, that we feel that we're on the right track as it relates to the California Welcome Center. They provided two different reports. One they did in 2018, which had a larger sample size. And then in 2024, it was a much smaller, but they reinforced one another. And that being called out in the highlight is that customers that are coming in from domestic or international, they're looking for interactive experiences on area history and culture as a way to, again, create a pointed destination. And interactive experiences about history and area ranked number 3 as far as offerings. So we really feel that we're on track to really support this type of study, and our numbers are bearing this out as well. For those of you, and I think everybody on the dais has been over at the Welcome Center, and what's nice about one of the particular formulas or studies that came out of this was that for everybody that walks in, roughly they'll stay in the area about 1.6 additional nights in the area. And from the standpoint of our funding, that's critical from the standpoint that we are funded through the TOT, or the TID, the Tourism Improvement District, where we're challenged to show overnight stays. And that's clearly what we've been able to do. In fact, this past year, we added 1,048 different additional room nights. And that was in 2024. We also had over 28% increase in people coming to the Welcome Center. And we're on track for that as well for this year. We're showing at least 25% increase in visitation. And these are different types of groups that have come in. We get a lot of repeat visitors, especially people from the peninsula, believe it or not. They'll be dropping people off at the train station. They'll have some time to kill before the train gets there. And they'll find us. And the next thing you know, a couple weeks later, they're bringing family and friends back. So that's very encouraging as well. The other part of this, of us being where we are located, and that is being on the National Historic Trail called the Juan Bautista de Anza Trail. And this is something, again, where the Heritage Center / California Welcome Center can play a pivotal role in increasing tourism to Salinas and the surrounding areas. The postcard in the middle was done in 1905, and it really is sort of something that I've embraced and I show in various presentations, because I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here. It says, "Come to Monterey, tourist attention, see Monterey for its historical landmarks, 3 nations, scenery, and drives." And that's truly what we're trying to do, is we're trying to leverage that historical knowledge in bringing people here to see where they can visit, practically 4 different nations within one area. And so regional heritage tourism is our mantra. We hope that the type of programs that we're creating will not only increase inland visitation from the peninsula, but also even further inland to Monterey County, Salinas Valley, and the San Benito County as well. And it's really through the storytelling. Because of the Juan Bautista de Anza Trail, there were 3 people that kept detailed journals, so we know almost what they were doing each and every day that they were on this particular expedition. And so through storytelling and placemaking, we'll be able to accomplish what we're trying to set out to do, and that is to have regional heritage tourism be a success in this area. And again, with our beautiful landscapes, placemaking is key to that as well. What's interesting too is we're also going to be coming upon our 250th anniversary of this particular expedition, which also coincides with the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States. And I always tell people when they've never heard of this, because most people have never heard of the trail, that in school we're learning about the 13 colonies on the East Coast, and on the West Coast, this expedition was happening. It was a little over a year that it took 240 men, women, and children, starting off in Sonora, Mexico, to the founding of San Francisco. And they needed the water routes to water themselves, plus the 1,000 head of cattle that were with them. And so obviously the Salinas River played an integral role in that as well. So we have some interesting, unique opportunities that are coinciding. As I mentioned before, the Juan Bautista de Anza Trail, the 250th anniversary is coming up. March of this year will be the time that they came in this particular area. And then there's, because of our proximity of the freight depot to the train, which was obviously the very first train station, there's a program called Trails and Rails, which is a partnership between Amtrak and the National Park Service, where we have the ability to put docents on the train and allow people to enjoy and hear the stories of the Anza Trail as well. And that's already in existence. We just need the funding to start to be able to market this as well. And of course, Caltrain, that's sort of the biggie. Caltrain's going to be coming in 2028. And I know some people roll their eyes, oh sure, the train's coming, the train's coming. The train is coming. I know for many years that people have heard about that, but they've broken ground, they're funded. TAMSI just, in fact, just presented last week to City Council. We've had meetings with TAMSI. We've held some of the rail committee meetings at our particular depot, and it's very positive, and there's a lot of excitement that we can start to build around having the Caltrain come to this particular area. And if you notice also, too, the upper right corner, we're calling ourselves Salinas City Heritage Park. And that has some challenges. I'll get into that in a minute, but it's really a brand name. We are not looking for any particular kind of designation as a park. We know that there are certain red flags that are raised when parks and planning collide, so we're not looking for the actual designation of a park, but just as a brand name. So I bring up your ordinance because there's just so many similarities as far as why City Council had created this body to begin with. And I've sort of, I've highlighted that community revitalization and the promotion of heritage tourism. And at the very bottom, attract visitors who will stay longer and spend more. So we are actually implementing those very goals that this body has set out to support. And again, you've been very supportive. We appreciate that. But just want to remind the dais and the public as well that we are working towards that goal and successfully working towards that goal. So the program that we have built around the Juan Bautista de Anza Trail is called the Valleys of Anza. And I've shared this with you prior. In the portfolio, we get more into detail about that, so I won't spend that time. But we've built and fostered some really strong relationships with some really good organizations like UC Berkeley, the National Park Foundation, and others that are not listed on this particular slide. But for those of you who are not familiar with the program, please go to valleysofanza.org and you can find more detail about that. But the header really does explain in very simple terms, what we're trying to do, and that is placemaking and storytelling. We have groups of college students coming from all around the state to come and learn about our history. And in fact, we just had the other day a group from a community group as well. And it's really about storytelling and placemaking. We're able to tell some fascinating and interesting stories at the depot, at the Heritage Center. And it really lends itself to being able to tell the stories here and then to go out and explore our beautiful and natural landscapes. And The thing that I'm very excited about and wanting to share with you is that after COVID, California, just like much of the nation, was challenged with revitalizing tourism. Obviously, people were not coming to California during that time. Federal monies were released, and the state of California wisely spent them on doing studies on what the next 10 years would look like from a state perspective. They broke the state down into 12 regional corridors or regional districts, and then spent about 2.5 years with an agency called JLL. They were hired, and they are global experts in tourism. And we were fortunate enough to submit our ideas, go through the process of evaluation, and our plan was recognized by Visit California as a place to drive economic development through heritage tourism. And so this study came out July 30th of 2025, and this was the call out that was on page 22 and 23, where they call us out as key collaborators in cultural tourism and heritage tourism. And they even say that right here under strategies, this aligns with the Salinas Valley Tourism and Visitors Bureau 2024 portfolio, which proposes developing assets around culturally significant sites like the Juan Bautista de Anza National Historic Trail to foster economic growth through regional heritage tourism. So this is sort of a validation of the plan, and we're very pleased to have Visit California and JLL support in this plan. And it was even called out that in the Herald on July 17th, Visit California and its global consulting firm JLL have recognized the Salinas Valley Tourism and Visitors Bureau and its marketing plans as a significant path towards economic growth through regional heritage tourism. And also, along with the portfolio that we have given out to all of you, there's a brand new book, a travel guide that was put out by the National Historic Trail and another company, along with Visit California. And this is a first of its kind 88-page that showcases the opportunities through the experience of both the expedition and the tribes that they encountered in the founding of San Francisco. And in our particular area, there's a lot of opportunity for additional information. So I commend the people who put this together and put it out. It's well done. But I also think that there's a lot more information that we can be contributing to this particular section as well. Another interesting development also was I was asked to speak at the American Planning Association for California. This was back in late September, first part of October, where I sat on a panel that was about comprehensive strategies for cultural heritage planning. And I was able to share the speakership, speaking with myself, Blake Roberts, who is part of the Delta region, Delta Protection Region. In fact, they're the only national heritage area in California. We hope to be the second. And when I say we, that would be Monterey Bay. That is in the works right now. That is being sponsored by Congressman Panetta's office, and that it's working its way through evaluation, and eventually, hopefully, once the government kicks back in, that we'll be able to start to get that process going again. But I just wanted to call out that, there's a lot of things in a lot of different areas that are coming together that really help support what we're trying to do as being a valid way for economic development. And a national heritage area is another one of those propositions that are hopefully going to be coming to fruition. The challenges, though, are still the same as when I spoke a couple of years ago. We still do not have signage at Heritage Park, especially being a California Welcome Center. These are well sought after by malls, points of destination that want to create new influx of people coming to the area. These are just a couple examples of some of the signage that you see at some of the other sites, at the Del Amo Fashion Center and the Citadel. Huge, huge signs welcoming people to come and visit. Now, I'm not looking for anything this exorbitant or large, but it would certainly be nice to have something that When people get off the freeway, because we do have signage on both freeway for the 101, 1 and 68, where we do have signage, but it literally dies when you come into Salinas. And so having signage, I think, would be helpful in supporting us in trying to do what we're trying to accomplish as far as getting more people to come to Salinas and the area. The others is just the banners and Heritage Park name. These have been, out and agreed to by the stakeholders. We still have not been approved to get these put up, and I'll just leave it at that. The other part is getting the remainder of the depot. Right now, that depot is being used for storage, and there was about $500,000 that was used through state and federal grants that listed eligible activities for the remainder of the depot. Out of the 12, we fulfill 5 of those. I don't see storage anywhere on that list. And then lastly is the fact that, I have a board and the commitment from the board to raise at least $2 million to do the tenant improvements and exhibits for the remainder of the depot. And again, it's sort of not being allowed to happen. And there's some challenges with that as well. So collectively, we're Heritage Park, made up of the Heritage Center, the Welcome Center, Fossville, the Monterey Salinas Valley Railroad, and the First Mayor's House. And so we've been very successful in being able to co-market ourselves and brand ourselves this way. And that's just the footprint within the Heritage Park along the tracks, where we have additional stakeholders, including the Steinbeck Center, the Steinbeck House, and the ability to collectively make these points of destination cohesive and really organic in the way that people are looking at things. I can't tell you how many people will eat at the Steinbeck House. They'll ask, hey, what's there to do? They'll recommend that they come over to us if the Steinbeck Center is closed, which they are closed, I believe, on Mondays. And we get a great turnout. And it shows also in the reviews that we're getting on TripAdvisor, Yelp, Google reviews. Some of those you'll find in the portfolio as well. So I want to thank you again for your continued support and take any questions if you have any.
Yeah, Craig, I have one question. How do they define extra stays in the area? What does that sort of mean?
That they'll spend an extra night stay in the area, whether it's be a motel or hotel, so that the additional tourism improvement district funds could be collected. They don't geographically say that it's within the city limits.
Yeah, they say it's more days, so it's more tax.
Correct.
Okay.
Another question. What are the statistics for the California Welcome Centers in Salinas? Since it started in Salinas, how do you see the increment of visitors?
We keep tally of everybody that walks in the door, so we have a year-over-year comparison of that. Like just for the month of October last year, we had seen 536 people. This year, we've seen over 800. So substantial increase in visitations and in tours specifically.
You mentioned you needing to get permission to put the signs up. From whom are you needing permission?
These are all the 3 that I've laid out. The remainder of the depot, signage, and the name all have to deal with the city itself.
Is this a planning department question, or?
That's a really good question. I can't specifically answer that.
So this is a property management question, and so that had previously been in community development. It's now part of administration and the city manager. And so Yesenia and I are working on some replacement banners for the ones that are there currently that have been tattered by the wind. And then we'll be discussing this request with the city manager going forward to see about approval or whatnot.
Okay, hopefully.
But part of the banner's locations, wasn't one idea to have them right on West Market? So they can, oh, something's going on here, and then it would continue into the property.
I mean, Rotary is ready to go and trying to, figure out a nice, welcoming, big, type of signage or banner. But again, everything's been put on hold.
And why do you think it's been held up? What, is it a semantics question about the word park, or why?
There's a lot of blocking and tackling. That's all I can tell you, that over the years, it's just been one reason or a different reason. So I can't really give you a definitive answer because I've been given so many different ones. But the bottom line is no, is the answer.
So if I understand correctly, funding isn't already in place for signage, but it is in place for the banners? Is that correct?
Yes.
So it seems once it's agreed on what the words are, there's no expense to the city. Any other reason that could complicate it?
Again, I've been given so many different reasons that I could not give you a definitive answer. I'm sorry that I can't.
Could, I'll just throw out a couple words just to play with this. Could the word be plaza instead of park? Could the word be square instead of park? Would that avoid the park issue?
I think it's really a paper tiger, to be honest with you. I think it's just a reason to say no. I don't think that we're looking for any type of designation as far as being truly a park, per se. I just think that right now, until we can get, we thought we had this worked out, but it probably is going to have to go to council for direction.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure I've seen examples of the signage that as a possibility, but we definitely saw the banner examples, and I think they look great.
Thank you.
Again, if it said plaza or square, I'm kind of, who cares? It's the banner and it gets you there, So I thought there was some discussion about complications if it's technically a park.
Again, we're not looking for that technical aspect. I mean, for all intent and purposes, we could start advertising it just as you see here on the screen, Heritage Park. But we are trying to be respectful, because in the end, we need to be partners with the city. The only way that this is really going to land or take off quite well if there's a public-private partnership. And, the private sector is ready to step up, like I said, with the banners and the remaining TI improvements to the remainder of the depot. It's just been sort of, it's been a challenge for various reasons with various personalities at the city level that have stopped us from moving forward.
I have a question about the California Welcome Center.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently, the state doesn't give you any support or funding?
Not in
per
its
se?
current configuration. I mean, because of the validation or the approval of the plan that we have through JLL Visit California, there's other scenarios where we might be going to the state level. Speaker Rivas has been to the center and has enjoyed it and believes in the potential. So we will be circling back with state officials and looking for funding that way. But for the most part, the private sector is ready to, like I said, pull the trigger and do the necessary tenant improvements to the remainder of the depot. And the Rotary is ready to go with the signage as you see as Heritage Park.
So right now, you just consider that you're going to be financially responsible for the signage, just a matter of getting the quote permission?
Correct.
Just one other thing I'd like to add to this. In the vital importance of all of these things moving forward. As Craig mentioned to you, the train is coming. Our depot needs to be refurbished. There's a lot going on there that if we want to be a city that welcomes all of our visitors by rail and the users there, we have a lot of work that needs to be done over there. We are working with the city, but we have quite a bunch of enthusiastic supporters who are willing to put their time and energy towards this. We need the city to be a very active partner in this. If we're going to be ready for this, this is going to be a key economic driver for the city. If we get on it, time will be going by very quickly. I've been working on this project since the 80s, and like history, it's a long time coming, but we are very close now. So whatever support this board or the community adds towards this is going to be vital to the success of the tourism, the heritage tourism in this area.
And what type of support are you looking for?
Political part of it, you know, the community is responsive to the city's desire to see this move forward. If this becomes an emphasis from the city, we are also looking for organizations like the Rotaries who have the funding and the resources to be a part of the collaborative. The city is not wealthy. They're not bringing a lot of money to this, but the community with the resources that they have, we're really looking forward to that. So we need the emphasis. We need that strong partnership. We need to be able to resolve the challenges that Craig has identified that's been going on for a long time. We don't have the answers to questions. We've met with, I think, every one of the city council members, the mayors, and there is support for this, but we need action. We don't need words, we need action.
Can we make some sort of resolution or recommendation to the city council that can get pushed forward to them, saying that this board agrees that this project should move forward with the signage and everything as proposed? Sort of like taking the burden off of them and throwing it on us to look at it and approve of it?
We're an advisory board, so, you know, we can send recommendations to the city council. If it's within our, you know, authority.
It sounds like it is when you look at our mission statement.
Yeah.
I think the wording is going to be very critical, so I don't think we can wordsmith it right here on the dais, but
Yes.
something to consider.
Do I have a volunteer or two to come up with a resolution that is presented the way we'd like it to read, and we could present that at our next meeting or in a meeting in the very near future? Do we have any volunteers?
I volunteer.
Okay, so that's one. It'd be great if two people volunteered. Sal?
Oh.
Okay, so Eloise and Sal will be a subcommittee on,
I can help out also.
is it okay for three people to be in it? Yeah, that's what I
Only two.
thought. So Eloise, would you agree to back off so Larry can work with him on just the wording of this resolution, because you're already in a subcommittee currently?
Sure,
Are you okay with that?
sure.
But I do
So-
have a question is, right now, does the staff believe that we have the authority to go ahead and come up with a resolution?
You know, I'd appreciate if staff could look into this. And then just a little more on context. The city had hired Harrison Associates to create a master plan or master plan update for the ITC. And then we've been finishing that project in-house at the staff level. And we most recently presented our public opinion survey memo. And then we're finalizing existing conditions memo. And then the third memo will be opportunities and strategies to move forward. So that might be an appropriate time to sort of hash out these final details, work with the stakeholders, work with the subcommittee on what that recommendation is. Just a thought.
What's the timeline for the city's work that you're describing? What's the deadline?
The existing conditions we hope to have to this board next month, and then early January or early 2026 for the recommendations and opportunities.
Okay, this has been going on, this particular, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but since you did bring it up, Grant, they spent $65,000 on a consulting fee to study this, and they have yet to release a report, a comprehensive report of that $65,000. This has been over 3 years now. So this is some of the blocking and tackling that I've mentioned to you before that is going on.
Yeah, so can we sort of, this subcommittee that we've formed for a recommendation, can we have some kind of a timeline of a first draft for a recommendation letter to be presented to the mayor and the city council? So that it doesn't kind of get, you know, the can doesn't get kicked down the road on this?
Next meeting.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable if the subcommittee feels it gives them enough time. And I don't think we're looking for this long, detailed resolution. We just want something that focuses on our thoughts, how the city should move forward with this, because I get the feeling that most of the board feels that we should. So choosing the words carefully to recommend to the city that let's go on with this, let's move forward. And then what Grant's telling us, there's going to be more meetings and different segments of this long process that's been going on will continue. At least HRB's thoughts and direction will be given to the city timely.
And I believe it, you know, it has to be in conjunction with staff recommendation as well. So we hopefully all these things will be taken into consideration, but I think it seems like it may not up to HRB, but HRB should come up with a position statement or response to their dilemma.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a good idea, and is it reasonable to expect to have what you come up with at our next meeting?
The draft?
Yeah.
So Sal and Larry, yeah, okay.
I think it's just a matter of going back and listening to the presentation and getting out the key points of why, you know, there should be signage and there should be banners, and just being emphatic about that as our resolution and recommendation to the city council.
I'm concerned that, you know, that our recommendation is not just based on outcomes, but the reasons also.
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
I just, one suggestion I might make when you're putting this together is you've been provided the portfolio, and there's a lot of backup information. It's very clear in there what the challenges ahead are and the needs. So as you're doing the research to put it together, that might be helpful for you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments or questions? So thank you, Denise and Craig, for taking the time to make your presentation. I think you, especially with the documentation you provided us, there's a lot to go through. We've all visited the Welcome Center, and we know what a great resource it is. Kind of separate from our recommendation or support is the expansion of that facility, and that's a different issue, and it's going to be more, it's going to involve different direction, I think, to get a resolution to it. But in the meantime, there's no reason not to move forward with getting things going. So if there's no more discussion, our next issue here is Chinatown pre-development activities update. Grant.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just want to give a quick update on what's happening with Chinatown on a number of fronts. The fire damaged building at 38 Soledad Street and 36 and 34, they're conjoined as one structure. That demolition is moving forward, should be scheduled early this month. And then across the street at the Republic Cafe, we're moving forward with a contract for emergency stabilization, weatherproofing, and removal of rodents and other animals that are in there. So it'll be a nice, clean, watertight building. And working on that contract this week. And then at the same time, we continue to work with our consultants, TEF Design, on the longer range project to develop housing at 34 through 40 across the street, 45 Soledad Street, and then housing and a museum with ACES at 37 and 39 Soledad Street. And we've been meeting with the ACES committee on that and talking over what floor plans might be needed, how much square footage, what potential layouts could be. It's still very conceptual, but it is moving forward. And just wanted to update the committee on these activities.
Any comments or questions?
Oh, I have a comment that, working with the cities, we've moved quite a way so far, so we're very, thankful for that. And it appears that, we're within sight of coming up with some concepts about a museum at the Republic Cafe.
I have a question. Since 38 Soledad burnt down, and it's, I guess, going to be what remains of it, the facade and the back facade, I guess they're going to be demolished. So are they going to put something like the affordable housing there? Yes. And what about the one next to it? Isn't there another potential historic building next to it? Is that going to be designated as a historic resource building?
So it's a little tough to discuss without a visual, but where 34 to 40 is where the fire happened. From the end of the block at Market Way to Dorothy's would be one development for affordable housing and mixed-use commercial on the first floor. So there's no other historic structure on that portion of the block. Across the street is 37 and 39. 37 is the Republic Cafe, which is nationally listed. 39 is not listed as a historic building, but we are doing a historic structures report as part of the work with TEF Design, and it may very well come back as historically significant. We're just waiting on that work.
Okay, thank you for that.
So on the west side, that's going to be demolished, to make sure I understood Eloise's question and the answer she received, some of the architectural elements are going to be saved off of that building and possibly reused or copied, or is the whole thing just going to be demolished?
So excellent question. To the extent that it's safe to save any of the architectural elements, we will. It's being demolished though, so that's a safety issue for the company that's doing it. In either case, the new designs for the affordable housing incorporate basically recreating the facade so that it would have the same look, feel, and texture when the new construction as there was on the building before it burnt down.
Okay.
How many stories will be I sort of remember that it was 5 stories for the affordable housing, is that right?
That's correct.
Seems kind of like a lot.
And will it be likely that the west side of Soledad Street will be where the action happens first in building this affordable housing?
That's hard to answer at this point. Once we're done with the design work and entitling the project, it'll go out for a request for proposals for an affordable housing developer. And they'll work up a phasing strategy on which structures they want to construct first, based most likely on what's financially feasible.
Any other comments on the Chinatown pre-development activities? Questions? All right, moving on to the next topic is Rehab Right.
And so just following up on previous discussion items from the summer, wanted to let the board know that we've updated our Historic Resources webpage and included the links for the City of Berkeley, was it Oakland, City of Oakland, and then also a link to the Secretary of Interior National Standards.
Okay. And then I know at one of our past meetings, we also wanted to include the Spreckles information online. Do you have any idea when that will also be available?
Yes, we can link that.
All right. Yeah, I've checked online and it looks great. It's easy to use and it's a very valuable resource, one of many I hope we're going to be offering the public. All right, next are any future agenda items. Sal?
For that, you should always put comments from all of us or something. Because sometimes there's activities, historical activities of preservation and things like that. I just want to report, the California AIA, all of architects, we received notification that we wanted to participate on the preservation of the People's House and asking the members of the Congress to investigate destruction of the White House. Our office sent the letters to the Congress to ask architects to preserve maybe the most historical building in the nation. And that could be a great red flag. That's why I brought a couple of the buildings that are historical in our city. Hopefully they went through the due process of getting permits or whatever they're doing to preserve the historicity of those sites. That's the reason I brought those items in the beginning. But in this, I wrote a synopsis of what was sent to us and urging us to participate and to contact the Congress to persuade them to support, to go forward and investigate, why is this happening in the #1 historical site without due process? When it was told that they will do a building, a ballroom that will not interfere with the facade of the mansion or the White House. And instead, it was totally demolished and it was defaced. So if we use the Secretary of Interior's guidelines, that would be a big no-no. You gotta preserve that and you gotta maintain, because that White House is seen by 360 degrees. And that's what normally we try to take care on the historical preservation of any building, especially this one.
Any comments or questions about this topic?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to add that I recently just read about in Santa Cruz on Pacific Street, they're going to demolish 6 6 houses from the 1930s, the revival, one of those revivals, Spanish revival, Mission revival, 6 of them to put in affordable housing. So you know, it just seems to me that it's something that's just, they're going above and beyond anything that has to do with historical preservation, because they're going to do it in Santa Cruz. So they'll do it in the White House, they'll do it in Chinatown, you know, it's just, what can you do? You can write a letter, but by the time they consider your letter, they've already put up the affordable housing and demolished the stuff. I don't mean to sound down in the mouth about it, but it's just a trend that we're seeing.
I think it's an ongoing battle. It's been going on for decades, and it's going to continue to go on. So the more preservationist stance those people who can take and respond and try to prevent things, or re-educate people so we can recycle these buildings or move them. I don't know enough about the Santa Cruz buildings to know what caliber, design, quality, and all of that, but it must be about the location as to why this is happening. And I would think Santa Cruz has been pretty good about some preservation issues. Certainly online, you can access a lot of information. So I would think that they probably have gone through the steps, but nothing is protecting it locally, so this cannot happen. And as far as the White House, I know I've gone online and protested and sent emails to representatives. So personally, that's something we all can do. It's not really the City of Salinas Historic Resources Board area, but it is, overall, it's even more important because it's America's.
Yes.
So,
So
any
for-
other comments, questions about that?
Also, for future agenda items, you had mentioned at the beginning, Sal, the Clay Street and Steinbeck. If we could, at their next meeting, if you could let us know what's going on with those two places.
And Sal, what is the address on the Clay Street one?
124, right on the corner.
And would you remember the cross street?
Across street is,
So you're kind of near the you're near the YMCA, aren't you?
It's in the back side of the Steinbeck Library.
Because I look on the Clay, on the list we
Oh,
have
I
of
think that-
structures, I see
is it
139 and
Lincoln? I think it's
165
Lincoln.
listed.
I think it's Lincoln.
Yeah, I think that is Lincoln. Well, Lincoln's on,
Oh, no.
Steinbeck's
In
on
the back of
Lincoln, so that's
so that would
Cayuga.
be,
Cayuga's
Stone
behind
Street?
Lincoln.
Church.
Oh,
It's gotta
okay.
be church. It's
Yeah,
gotta be
Church Street, that last book.
Clay.
Church and Clay, okay. Because on the west side, you have a rare empty lot
Yeah.
in that block. And I always have thought, wow, all these years and no one's ever built on it. But yeah, so that's between West San Luis and Clay. It would be that block.
Is this house. And then you can see the address right there at the bottom. See that?
Oh,
And then the
is there a-
octagon house is behind it.
wait. So it's actually the block before that. And this is the Salachi house, and there's a little barn behind it.
Oh,
And
yeah,
it's
on the
amazing
side.
to see that barn.
That's the original.
Yes, it is. So what's
Steinbeck
happened?
used to play there.
And that's been in the same possession for decades, the
Yes,
owner.
Yes, yes.
So what are they doing?
I don't know. But you can see they're working on it. And the octagon house is in the back side of it.
It is. Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's going to be Church and West San Luis. That's
Yes,
the,
San
that's the
Luis. Yeah, that's-
northwest corner.
Yes. Yes.
They're also doing a remodel on the side of the Sacred Heart Church. They're doing a
It looked like there was some sort of,
restoration.
water issues. They had to remove the stucco. I walked by and we looked really close. I didn't stop the workers or anything. I just
Yeah.
looked and took pictures, but That's my guess of what they're doing there. I don't, are you suggesting that something's changing about the facade, or just they're doing restoration work?
Well, I-
Because
I
any
thought-
alterations to the facade has to be going to the new process.
Yeah,
We are
that's-
presently working on the Vallejo Free Library in Pajaro. That was damaged by the weather, by the flood and also by the storms that had it, damaged the facades. And we are reviewing the restoration of the facades. And it went, and they are the replacing and reinstalling all of the envelope of the library. Yes. And we go periodically there, we have a subcommittee that we go to periodically make sure that they're going through the process of preservation of the original building. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think about the Sacred Heart thing is, since he's mentioning these other addresses, I guess he's mentioning in terms of, are they going through the process? And Sacred Heart is a historic building.
It definitely should be, but isn't it on the page in Turnbow list? Are you seeing it in your listing of?
The Clay Street isn't.
Right, but, so, are you seeing Sacred Heart Church, which would be, I assume it's a West Market address
Yeah.
at Stone Street?
Stone, yeah, Stone and West Market.
It just mentions on Market,
Oh,
1030.
yeah, the office.
West Market
yeah,
is
you're right.
141 and 143, but
Yeah.
that said both of those have been demolished.
Right, yeah, I'm not sure it's on the list, because
don't
when I was
think it
going
is.
through Page and Turnbull's
Turning the
information, I think
facade,
it's
yeah.
added to their list.
It's not just changing. It looks like they're, doing some work on the facade.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to go through the process to review. At
Right,
least.
but what I'm saying is, I'm not sure it's currently a flagged property.
Right.
I think it's Page and Turnbull's recommending that it be added to the inventory. I think we all agree it should be,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure it currently is. So,
That's the work of for the new resource,
Right.
Permitting's going on right now.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Right.
Well, yeah, and, I mean,
I mean, we can't turn the clock back.
that's true, but the thing is like, does the church have to, because we're recommending it, don't they have to allow allow?
They may have already had a permit for it.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the permit, I'm talking about the designation for a historic resource. Don't they have to give their permission that it is a historic resource before?
We can make a recommendation, but I don't think it can be retroactive on a permit.
Right, and with the Page and Turnbull, this is the initial survey work. It's whether they move forward with the next step. So a lot of properties are going to be discussed, and some of them will make the grade and it will move forward. So then eventually they'll make their recommendations and then it's up to the city, I guess, to agree with those, right? After paying this much money, I hope we do. And then we'll have those properties will be protected. That's why I'm anxious for next meeting for Yesenia to show us that process. What happens with the properties that are currently covered? How does it work? When you want to take a permit, get a permit to do something work, show us how it works. That's what I want to see.
Monterey County has a good process, and they understand they went through training with all the staff of how to go through that process. And I asked them and see if we, as a board, can get access to the training, because I think they film it. So we could have maybe use that as training for us. That would be a good start,
Yeah, and I know Grant was saying he or someone was going to give additional training or training suggestions for us. But initially, I want to see how this flagging process works. So all of us will be aware of it and understand, and move forward with that information and knowledge. So any other questions or points?
Yes,
Michael?
yeah, future agenda item question for Grant, really. And for everyone to know why I would be saying this, but the California Welcome Center was a project of mine, and the building it's in was a project of mine, and I've done that rail project in the area. So will I have to recuse myself from any recommendation to the board about this project next, when we get that?
Good question. We'll find out for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else?
I'm wondering if maybe we should, at the next, for the future meeting, if we should just maybe give a little bit of a progress report about our subcommittee on the Page and Turnbull reconnaissance.
I think that's a good idea. Hopefully we'll have some, we can put it on the agenda, and hopefully we'll have some feedback. The tentative deadline for our work with recommendations is November 14th. I'm feeling I need more time, but to be thorough about it. It's one way, of course, is just to go through the neighborhood and write addresses, and that's it. So I definitely could do it that way, but I preferred not to do it that way. But anyway, I'm working on the LSL right now, so the 93905 zip. And then there's still North Salinas and all of the other, the 93901 zip is so big, there's so many, and it's older, so of course there's a lot more inventory to go through there. We still haven't, maybe you have, but I haven't had a chance to go through Monterey Park or Mission Park, to drive through there and walk through there and notice properties that I think that should be included.
Well, I think we're supposed to have another Zoom meeting before the November 14th, are we? Is that right, Grant? With Page and Turnbull? The subcommittee? Or not?
So just to bring everyone up to speed, following the last meeting, the board had selected Chair Masgai and Board Member Shim as subcommittee to work with Page and Turnbull on reviewing the potentially new historic resources. We've met once via Zoom, and then the subcommittee's been reviewing the materials. We are not currently scheduled to meet again, but we can schedule a Zoom meeting with Page and Turnbull at your request and convenience, and that's easy enough to do remotely.
Yeah, I think we should have one, but I think we really need to get to November 14th to give us enough time to continue to add properties that are not on their list. And then discussion can follow about that, because we still need to get the response from our suggestions. And if we need to argue with them, we need to be able to do that. So they're not going to accept all of our suggestions, and one doesn't expect them to, but we'll hear why they aren't, and then if we still go, no, I don't think you're right still, so we need to talk about it some more. Others, you'll say, yeah, okay, it's kind of on the borderline, but I thought you should be aware of it. So
The only reason why I was suggesting maybe a Zoom meeting before November 14th, if that's kind of the deadline, or, our part.
right, but I think
Getting some guidance from them in terms of, are we on the right track, what we're doing now, and is there something, I'd like a little more guidance about what I should be doing in the subcommittee.
right. Well, I'm hoping that in the very near future, they're going to respond from our submissions, and from that, I think we're going to get guidance. We haven't had a response yet,
Yeah.
really.
I have a question. Is this a possibility for our board to have access to the study that you're reviewing, so we can cut your responsibilities and give you feedback so you can report?
No, we can't do that.
I mean, Grant would have to answer that, or Stacy. What I'm feeling is, I'm happy to see their additional suggestions. I just think there should be many more. So it's a labor, it's a time commitment for us to go out there and find them. So there are even more submissions, and then the discussion happens.
Yeah, because Grant said something about some kind of the Brown Act thing, there could only be 2 on the committee. That's why.
No, you have the committee, but we can see the study and then give you feedback, and you make the decisions as a subcommittee.
Grant, your comments on this?
In Monterey County, when they did a comprehensive study of all the historical farms and buildings for the whole county, and it was a subcommittee, and then the board had access to it, and we gave them sort of where the eyes and ears of that, but then the subcommittee came to the conclusion, gave a report and recommendations.
Oh, I think it just would, it would just make it, instead of a 2-person subcommittee, it would make it a potential 7-person, or I don't know, 5-person subcommittee, which it's not supposed to be.
No.
Grant, what's your thought about that?
So I think there's 2 things. One, I'd recommend the subcommittee continue doing their work, as was discussed and outlined in the last meeting. And then the main focus of that, as presented last month, was that you'd sort of screen check the work that Page and Turnbull has done to date, concur that they're correct in the properties they've identified, and then if there's anything clearly missing, submit those recommendations. So that's the task of the subcommittee, and I think that should keep moving forward. And then the other point is that anybody is welcome citywide to submit recommendations for additional properties to be considered. And that's what we presented at the workshop at the end of April. And we put the survey out to the public for that. And so any member of the public, any member of this board is welcome to, find addresses and potential properties and send them to me, and we can send them on to Page and Turnbull.
Okay, so they would send it directly to you. Is that right? They would send it directly to you, Grant? Or to
That's fine.
Yesenia?
Either one of us, yeah.
Okay.
So April will be public participation, maybe all the whole board can make recommendations, is that what you're saying?
We previously held a public workshop on
Yeah.
the survey, and that was in April of this year.
Oh, okay.
But then,
No, because
in the future.
I gave
we'll-
a whole list, and I don't know, I just want to check if they review it, that's all.
Yeah, I can confirm that for you.
Okay.
So I think what Sal is after, if I'm understanding, is there a way, as a Salinas resident, can have access to the new suggestions, the new properties that they would like to include? Because if he or anyone else has that, they then would know, since the other lists are public from the 89 and 2017 surveys, they can see what other potential properties could be recommended. So is there a way for Sal or anyone else on the board or anyone in Salinas to get that suggestion list, the tentative proposed new properties? Is there a way to access that so they can work more efficiently?
So again, as was outlined last month, the idea is that at this point, in this preliminary stage, it would be the staff, Page and Turnbull, and the subcommittee that works on that list, as opposed to the whole board or the general public. Because it is still tentative, it's early evaluations, no full write-up has been done on any of these properties. It's purely based on a windshield survey of driving around the city and seeing what looks to be potentially historic.
Okay.
So it's too premature, really, to put out for the whole community.
Okay.
Okay, any other issues? Mike?
This is probably a future agenda item, but I know we've discussed this before, but it will be interesting to know and be able to advise people about what a property owner's rights will be once this list is actually put together. How does that impact someone, the fact that their property is now on a list? And I think we mentioned we might get the city council to educate us at some point. But obviously, not necessarily until the list, and that's not going to happen for a while, doesn't sound like.
Well, I'm confused. I need clarification about this. A historic property cannot be put on the list if the owner of the property doesn't give their permission. Isn't that true or not?
That's correct. Per the city historic resource ordinance, designation of historic property is done by the owner, with the exception of a historic district, which could be put forward by the city for council approval.
Yeah.
But an individual property is designated by the property owner.
Okay.
Anything else? If not, that's it. Meeting adjourned.